We'll start off the record. Okay, everyone, we're going to get started, 6 p.m., so I can beg for your attention here. So let me just get started. We're introducing myself and what we're here to do. Of course, this is the Fox Solar Generation Project. My name is Michael Newmark, the Administrative Law Judge for the PSC, and the PSC is the state agency that's here to evaluate the application, and it has the authority to approve, deny, or approve the project with modifications. So my job is to create the record in the case, and what's important about that is that the commissioners who run our agency and make the decision can only base their decision on the record. So that's my job, is to compile the record, tell everyone what's in the record, what's not in the record. What first thing that's in the record is the documents we received on Tuesday from the applicant and the town of Morgan and commission staff, and also a transcript of the hearing where we talked about the project and there was some questions and answers. That gets presented to the commissioners for their review. Also, all the written comments that we receive between the dates of when we issued the notice of hearing and March 9th, that's the public comment period. Those comments will be before the commissioners. And the transcript of this hearing will be presented to them for their review. So they look at all the evidence, and there's basically looking at the statutory criteria. They need to use the evidence to decide whether the project meets that criteria and should be approved. They meet an open meeting to make that decision down in Madison, and that's live streamed as well. But once they make that decision, we create a written order, and that written order gets issued. It gets put on the commission's website, and it gets emailed to the parties in the case. So in this case, it's the applicant and the town of Morgan will get a copy. So I'm on the screen share. I'm presenting the notice of hearing. There's a lot of good information on there. We have a couple copies in the back, but putting that on the screen share. And important thing about that is that people on Zoom can see it, but it's also being live streamed on YouTube, and it's going to be part of a recording of this hearing. Will be on YouTube for people to review. But just so you know, the official version of the hearing is going to be the transcript. That's what the commissioners will see. The recording is just for everyone's convenience. But on the hearing, notice the hearing, there's a couple of details that you should be aware of. First of all is today's hearing's on there, so public hearing session at 2 and 6, and the details about the written comments are there, including a link to our web comment page for this case and the mailing address for comments. So we can take comments here and in person here live, or we can take comments in writing. So for whatever reason, if you're here and you don't want to speak your comment, you can just write your comment on the appearance slip that I mentioned before, hand it back to commission staff, and we'll put that in the record for you. Or you can, on the appearance slip does show you the link for the website and the mailing address, so you could drop that in the mail or just use your comment, just use the link here. We do need to get the comments in our office by March 9th. That's the deadline, so just be mindful of that we're getting pretty close to the date at this point. So mailing may not be the best way to make sure we get this on time, at this time. But that's another option in terms of making a comment. Also on the notice, there's the link to our YouTube live stream, and which will be the recording. It's also a link to the documents in the case. So there's a way you can see all the documents in the case using that link. It's also on the appearance slip at the top. It's the link as well, right at the top of the page. And there's a way to subscribe to our online document system shown in the notice of hearing. So if you do want to get a copy of that final decision that's issued, you can go to the website and look for it, and you can also subscribe to this docket, and you get a notice every time a document gets filed. In the docket. So just some information, some background for you. So some other basics, like I mentioned before we get started, we're not doing a presentation about the project. We're here to get your comments. And we do have personnel here in the room that may be able to answer your questions. And we'll take some time for you to do that if you need it. Right now, I'm just going to hang on. I just want to let some more people in from Zoom. There we go. But basic parameters of the hearing, we want to get your comments. So if you did fill out an appearance slip, now I got your name here. I'll just call out your name, have you come up and take a seat. The red chair here. Swear you in, get your name for the record, and have us give you your opinion of the case, whatever you'd like to say. We just want to know what that is, and it'll be part of the record for the commissioners to see. And we have about five people on Zoom and 3 people in the room. So we'll check in on Zoom and see if those people want to make a comment. But first, we'll start with the people in the room here. So let me call our first witness, and we can get on the record. It's Elijah Benke, a representative. So please come on up. And just going to get situated here.
Hope you didn't pull any political favors. Let me go first.
I didn't. You were just on the top of the list. I don't pull.
All right, I appreciate it.
Let me see. Make sure we got everything going here. All right, so we're good to go. So let me swear you in. Raise your right hand. Swear or affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Perfect. All right, so give us your name and comment.
My name is Elijah Benke. I represent the 6th Assembly District, which this solar birch project would be installed in. I did not represent that when I started in office in 2021, but so many friends had owned properties in the area. I started going to the Morgan Town Hall to listen to the meetings, and I just felt like from the beginning, because of the interests of the farmers that were trying to put their land into the project, we're on the town board as the supervisors that approved the project. Mm-hmm. So it started off in poor faith. And so with any relationship and any negotiation, when you start off by trying to slip something through, it doesn't go over well amongst your neighbors, right? And so I don't hate solar. I genuinely just don't like big business or big government shoving something down citizens' throats, right? So I was called non-essential in 2020. That's the only reason I ran for office. And so with having a bad experience with the shutdown, I also didn't want other people, the town of Morgan, to have a bad experience. And so I've put my name on lots of legislation to allow local control. That would be a common theme. Even at the end of session, I added as a sub-amendment to some community solar, which would limit under 25 acres, an amendment allowing towns to have, some say and not just going all the way to the PSC. Mm-hmm. So I know we need energy. We live in a society where I enjoy charging my iPhone and having a data center to provide the data. I know it's a necessity. I just don't want a community to be bullied because of it being so many kilowatts. I just don't think that's right. I think if I could write a different bill, it would always have some local control, because at some point, a business and a community could come together, find similar interests, and approve some projects, right? And that's just not what's happening in Morgan. So that is my stated official opposition.
All right, great. Well, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Hey, David Beerand, saying that?
Your Honor,
Let's go off the record. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir. Are you David Beerand? Okay, so come.
I'd like the other people to go first.
Oh.
I prefer to be last, so the other people can have their time to speak.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so let's get on the record then. Jim Trotchter, come on up. Sorry, I butchered your name, but it's a little hard to read too. So
I wrote real quick, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Jim Troll.
Swear you in, raise your right hand. You swear or affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
So state your name for us and go ahead.
James Trotta,
Oh, spell it for us too. Yeah, she's gonna need.
Trochta.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I did submit written comments, and I do have copies of that, but this is different.
Okay, just let's. Can you guys hear?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you guys hear him back there? Yeah. Oh, you can. Okay. It just sounds low to me. I don't know why. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. Go. That's fine. Give your.
But to have the chance to speak, if this project goes through, this is going to change the area, the environment, the ecosystem forever. Okay. Right now, I'm a sportsman with Morgan Marsh, Morgan Wildlife Area. Farmland did come in. Yes, things get advanced, and there's development in the area. Small farmlands work together. They were a food source for wildlife and stuff, and they actually kind of complemented our area. Whereas also the swamp there is a perfect filtering system for groundwater to help get in, for surface water as it goes into groundwater. And that was what the sportsmen in 1950, they bought this area because they did see the development. Now you're developing it in, well, not you, but this project is developing it in a more invasive way, okay? Where in the past, this will change it forever. And even if there's a guarantee that it's gonna be turned back to the way it was, man will never be able to turn this back to its present conditions. The other thing too is the sustainability of this source of power, solar power. With technology changing as fast as it is, you know, is this a short-term thing? And as much land as being taken up, how sustainable and feasible will this be to the community? And once again, I'm gonna kind of end real quick to just think about this, but this is reinforcing this. This area is gonna be changed forever. It's gonna be a loss of habitat to the state that'll never be replaced. And it'll change this area forever, and it'll be a great loss to Wisconsin too. That's it.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your comment. So we're gonna switch to Zoom, so you can go last. So, just looking at our Zoom participants, I'm gonna ask people on the, ask people on the list if they are willing to make a comment here. So we have Brandon on Zoom. We can go off the record for this. Brandon, if you do want to comment, please unmute, turn on your camera, and we can take you now. Okay, I'm not hearing an answer there. I'm just going to put no answer for you. How about Francie and your iPad? Did you want to comment this time? You're in the afternoon, but feel free to chime in for the evening session. Did you want to comment, Fran? So it's Francis. I don't know if that's Francie. Is that how you say it? It's Francie? Not hearing from you. Okay. And who else? Jolene. No, Jolene, did you? I think you commented. Did Jolene comment? Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so we'll move on. So we have OCR, next person on Zoom. Did you want to comment? Please unmute, turn on your camera. OCR. And Samsung, you were here in the afternoon, but please feel free to unmute and let me know if you want to comment. No? Okay, that's all the Zoom people. So I put you down as no answer, but when we're not going to wrap up yet. We're going to be here for a while, so if you change your mind, we'll ask you again to chime in if you do want to comment. Okay, so let's look at who else we have in the room here. So we have two more appearance slips here. Nikki Koopman, come on up. Let me know if you want me to adjust something here. You good? All right. Wow, that's do that really well. Okay, so I'm going to swear you in. Raise your right hand. You swear or affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Give us your name and comment.
Nikki Koopman. I own Canine Creations Country Resort in Morgan.
I'm sorry.
Canine Creations Country Resort. I have an abundance of wildlife also. I'm on one side of it and in front of it. It'll be all around me. And I have a lot of deer on my property, and they'll be gone once that solar comes in. All the wildlife will be gone once that solar comes in. There was an eagle's nest across the way. That just happened to be knocked down. And the noise for the dogs, just with the project starting, is gonna be horrible for them to have to withstand all of that noise while it's going in. And I have no idea what it's gonna do to my business after that, because people will be gone because they won't bring their dogs to me because of the construction noise. So that's my issue. I'm done.
Okay, so the property is the address you gave here, the 4698
Elm.
Elm Lawn? Okay, just want to make sure we connect that up. All right,
Yep.
thanks. Did you get that? Yeah. So Erin, is it Hoover's?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Hoover's, it looks like?
M-O-O. Hooers.
Hoover's, okay. Erin.
You could spell it.
Okay, I want to make sure I keep these all. Did you get this one? Just hang on a second. Okay, I'll swear you in. Raise your right hand. Swear or affirm. Tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
All right, go ahead. State and spell your name. Do you need it spelled?
You can spell it.
Yeah,
My name is
it's-
Erin Morris, E-R-I-N. Last name is M-O-O-E-R-S.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Good to go?
Yeah.
There's not much left to say about this project and why it is not a good fit for the town of Morgan. The people of this town have spoken clearly. Residents voted that they did not believe this was a good choice for our township. Leaders were recalled. That alone should tell you something about the level of concern in this community. When the people speak, leaders should listen, not continue pushing unwanted projects forward. The process is broken when the voices of the very people who live with the consequences are ignored. This project brings many unknowns to our township, and the long-term effects will be felt long after the company behind it and the regulators who approve it have moved on. The corporation proposing this project has already told residents that the electricity generated here will not stay here. It will not even be used by the people of the township. Instead, it will be sold onto the market to the highest bidder. We have to ask, at what cost? The cost is our rural way of life. Once projects like this begin, they rarely stop at a single development. As land changes hands, corporations tend to expand. Rural communities should not be treated as the path of least resistance for an industrial scale solar development. The real question before the Public Service Commission is this: does taking this land out of agricultural use and fundamentally changing our rural community serve the greater need than the energy it's going to provide? For those of us who live in the town of Morgan, this land is not an abstract location on a map or a set of coordinates in an application. It is farmland. It is farmland that families have cared for and worked for and depended on for generations. It is part of the character of our community and the reason many of us chose to live here. Once this land is converted into an industrial scale solar facility, not a farm, it will not function as farmland for decades. The view to open fields will be replaced by fencing, equipment, and infrastructure. The quiet rural landscape that defines our township will be permanently altered. The people who live here will bear those changes every single day. We will have to live with the visual impacts. We will have to live with the changes to the drainage, the uncertainty of long-term maintenance. We will live with the reality that our rural community has been fundamentally changed. Under the standards set forth in the statutes, the commission must determine whether the benefits of this project outweigh the environmental, agricultural, and community impacts for its location. For those of us who live here, that balance has not been demonstrated. When a community has expressed sustained and overwhelming opposition, including the recall of local leadership during the course of this project, it should raise serious questions to whether the statutory findings that this location serves the public interest can be reasonably supported. So I ask the commission to weigh this carefully. Does the energy produced by this project truly outweigh the permanent loss of the land and community character it will replace? If the commission believes that it does, then the people who live here deserve a clear explanation of how sacrificing productive farmland and fundamentally changing this rural community satisfies the public's interest standard requirements under the Wisconsin law. The public interest should include the people who live closest to the project and the land that sustains them.
Okay, thank you very much. Jeff Foltz. Jeff, oh, here we go. Swear or affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Name and comment.
My name is Jeff Foltz. I am a Morgantown resident. What really scares me is the environmental impact of the weather we've been having the last 4 years. We've had 30 inches of snow. We have straight line winds. Would have took this whole area right out where it's going to be put in. Next concern is any fires. Any fires that start. I was a firefighter for 15 years. Fire makes its own weather. So it'll create its own wind, photography, whatever. It's not good. The wildlife, I hunt that area. That area is going to be wrecked. Has anybody ever decommissioned one of these? I can't find nothing anywhere in the United States that these have been decommissioned, and what is the not the purpose, but the direction of when decommissioning these, what happens to the panels, the groundwater, leaching off of this with PFAS. Nothing, there's nothing out there. So in my eyes, it's a bad pick for Morgan. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it. All right, did anyone else want to go before David? Okay, I got nobody else on Zoom. So we're gonna, after you speak, we're gonna go into recess and see if anyone else does want to speak, but why don't we have you come up
Then
and,
what I'd also like to
go off the right,
suggest,
yeah.
because I'll be long-winded, if anybody else would like to interject, I could take a pause and you can hear them, so they have their fair time.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. It's one person at a time, but yeah, because we're recording it and it just doesn't work, but. Okay. All right, let's get on the record. Raise your right hand. You swear or affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Dave Byrne, Oconto County resident, 8th District Supervisor for Oconto County. I will tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Excellent. All right, please go ahead.
What I would like to do is start out with, instead of me writing everything out, I'd like to start out with clarity and transparency of the application that was applied.
Yep.
So for your understanding,
Yep.
what I did was I highlighted these.
Okay.
So instead of reading every word, I can go into here, into your application, and I can find it here, and I can explain this to the people. So when I
Okay.
was elected, what I vowed to do for the people, not the government, I was going to take government language and break it down to where they can understand it.
Okay.
And then you can tell me if I'm correct or if I'm out of order.
Okay. So you handed me, looks like a copy of the
Yes, it's the index page here.
the main section of the
Yes.
application.
Yeah, so.
So wait just a second, let me ask one more question. Do you have a date on this one? Because there may be different versions.
No, this is the latest version that
Late-
came out.
okay.
Last week.
What number do you see there? The PSC number?
You want the
This one.
93?
This one. Oh, that one there. Okay, so
Yeah.
so the document we're reading from, let's just get this down. PSC number 556606.
Yeah, and that's the same one.
Same one, all right,
So then
perfect.
I need that to follow.
Oh,
here.
yeah, go ahead.
Because I didn't know shorthand. Okay, so what I did then was I went right to section 1.3. It was down to the size of the size of the development. So it was originally coming out with the original town government who had invested in this project. They were recalled. This was supposed to be 150 megawatt. But then we also had elected county people who are vested in this project. And what they did at the Morgantown meeting, like State Representative Banky said, it was not in good faith. And what they did at the Morgantown meeting was at the end of the agenda, they said, is there any comments out there? Well, they pulled in the solar project and said, this is our public comment period, and it was accepted. We lost our voice. And then the community just split and got worse after that. The church split, everything fell apart within the town. So then we came down, and in here it says that a supply chain is not developed yet, a manufacturer is not fully confirmed yet, but they went through with the applications of the different environmental studies. So the first one that came out then was the Worry panel. Well, in the application it says that you are going to use a product in kind or a comparable product. And the Worry panel is the best panel out there. So if you're taking your environmental impacts, you're taking your noise impacts, and you're using the Worry panel, that's the Cadillac of the solar panel. It is not said you're buying that one. You're getting something comparable. So when they did the elite studies, I had to go back through all these, and I was kind of floored how all these applications were submitted and accepted to approve the certificate, but none of it applied to the public side of Morgan. In the certificate, everything applied to the industrial side of the certificate, and the industrial side is never mentioned, it's always assumed. And then I start looking into who is the rural numbers and who is the urban numbers. Well, in here, a lot of stuff was mentioned as urban. We are not urban, we are rural. And the population of how you get treated has a big factor in that number. So then it went down to, the Gen tie-ins. Well, the Gen tie-ins come in through MISO. And MISO was developed in the early years of American Transmission Company when you did a rate increase, and that financed the development of the MISO office. And they kind of do the engineering design and application for the battery to be the capacitance connection between the solar project and a transmission station. And they like to put these closer to transmission stations than not distribution because of the size capacity of which you can get out. So it never really clarifies what is the size of the solar going to be. So in the last application here, at our courthouse, I heard 120 megawatt. But I'm also hearing 100 watt. Well, if this goes down to 100 watt, upcoming legislation where it's coming out of Washington, whether it's coming out of the state or out of the county, changes dramatically as to how the town will be treated. And so then we went on to, when the project is going to be approved, the developer must have a person with a purchase plan agreement to purchase their product of electrical utilities. If they're going to be coming into the development, then they have to have someplace to deliver their product. That has not been really approved yet. I have not seen it in here where the product of the electrical utility is approved by MISO to connect it through the best battery system at that connection point, which is the PIO, point of interconnection. And that is repeated throughout this part of the chapter 1 of the paragraph here. But then it says the utility under contract with which the agreement of principle for delivery of energy is in place, provided the following utilities. One of them is you have to state your capacity. Well, if your supply chain isn't developed, if your delivery isn't developed, if your manufacturer isn't agreed on, and you have a capacitance already of what you're going to be making, if that's not sure, because most of it says we'll do a modeling, we'll do some type of other type of guesswork and put this into our application, but it's already been submitted to the commission and accepted, but it's not confirmed what it is. So how can there be a study on it? But then it says the annual energy to be delivered in the contract. The county is guaranteed a certain amount of dollars to receive off of this taxable product, and so is the town. But in your studies here that were already handed in by the different companies, they were saying that the efficiency of the panel is going to be between 16 and 27%. So if you take this wall as 100% and only 20% of one corner is actually paying out, there's an 80% loss there of efficiency as to what's being manufactured, because this is a commodity, and the commodity itself isn't taxable, but all the other entities within the solar development is taxable. And if that money's down, the only way you can make up that 80% loss is to increase the monthly rate payment of the ratepayers. Unless you operate on an ESG platform, which is environmental social governance. and they can operate totally different, giving money into the project to a point where they saying, we want our money back, but by that time, you're dealing with BlackRock, you're dealing with international monetary funding, you're dealing with the United Nations, you're dealing with the Middle East, which we already have legislation in place that an outside foreign entity cannot own more than 10 acres of land. An outside entity cannot lobby money for a certain benefit that they might be interested in. And this was highly contested through the Hotel Association because they are mainly owned by foreign entities. But here on the solar system, this is in a small town, rural area, far from the people who need it. And what's not written into legislation, that if this renewable energy is so great and it's going to make electricity, like we hear on a lot of our energy reports, 8,500 homes. 8,500 homes were not entitled to have solar on their premises, on their roof, whatever. And that brings in a whole new different argument. And that I won't get into, but if you want to meet with me at the Hill, I would definitely show up and talk to you. In your project area, that I also mentioned the PIO, the point of interconnection, that if these people wanted to really connect it, this already has to be in place, it has to be designed, it has to be approved. There's all the electronic engineering associations. I saw none of this in the applications. So then it went down to the constructible collections. And in here, it was talking about the type of soil, the type of land. They go into the delineation, they go into drainage, they go into holding ponds. None of it. The Wisconsin DNR, all your different environmental studies, none of these people came up and said that this is the largest freshwater ecosystem on the face of the earth, connected to the Great Lakes, and there's not another spot like this on the face of the earth. So the gentleman over here who talked about he's the hunter, he scratched the surface of what this property is. And if they think they can take an ecosystem out and move it someplace else, we have to go to the State Highway Department. When they built the flyway through Green Bay and over by US 41 South and Velp Avenue in Green Bay, they thought they could take the ecosystem out and plant it someplace else. They quickly learned that you cannot reconstruct an ecosystem that God put on this earth. It failed, and Green Bay came real close to losing Velp Avenue all alongside that water line, and they wound up boring underneath it, which the public was never told the cost of that. So here, if we deal with a part of this ecosystem, which makes up our water, it takes 600 years at a minimum for the water to filter through the ecosystem to get into an aquifer, which is the water that we drink. And all we talk about here in the application is surface water. And we talk about a fungus here and a mold there and some bioparticle over here. But we never really address the ecosystem, which is one of the biggest ones on the face of the earth. And in there, I also was going through here that in the similar electrical and the physical characteristics of readily available to the market, the time of purchase. And I wonder, what does that mean? So what I did here was this stuff is highlighted for the towns to pay attention, but if I put yellow in here, this means that you or lawyers should be paying attention to an interpretation to make that clear. And what this is that when the commodity of electricity is generated by the solar industrial utility site, that who is the buyer? That's not established yet. And without that being established, they shouldn't even be putting their feet in the town of Morgan. But the government says we have to do it. So I'm looking for that clarification for the people. And then it goes back into how many kilovolts are going to be at the inverters. And there again, the people who did the sound studies on the inverters, and they took the Worry panel, and there's nothing in here saying that you're buying a Worry panel, but that's the Cadillac of solar panels right now. In the Worry panel, when I broke down the materials that are put into it, they say this is going to stand up to the heat, this is going to stand up to the cold, this is going to stand up to all the electronic exposure. It's not true. The Worry panel comes out of China. It was sent over to India. It's being assembled under Adante, and our customs agents intercepted the Worry panel in India, where they assemble them and put the Made in America emblem on them, and they really don't tell you what's in them. So I got looking into the inverter. Well, the inverter is an electronic device to switch electricity back and forth, and none of the tests across the state of Wisconsin are done in the summertime. And I tell you, I tell everybody that test by the utility should be performed in the hottest days of July, the hottest days of August, because the electrical is at a different demand and the stress on that inverter is totally different than what it is in the middle of January. So the sound is going to be different. Well, when I looked into the construction of the inverters, because it didn't really say which one they're going to use, so I went to the different models that were listed under Wari and Adani, and in the inverter, I came up with the polycentric. I can look this up here, because just in case you asked, I have just in case you asked, it under Wari, it came up as monocrystalline, and the other one is polycrystalline. They say there's nothing wrong with these, but they are part of the PFAS family. They carry the same amount of hydrogen and carbons, and in their normal state, it's just like refrigerant gas. In their normal state, they're harmless. But in the hot and cold exposures of what they do, that clear coating that is the insulator, that starts to wear off and it turns into a powder. The powder is the part that's a part of the PFAS family. And it's just like with phosgene gas in your air conditioner. They say phosgene gas won't, or
I'm
excuse
sorry,
me,
what kind of gas?
refrigerant gas.
What was the word you said?
I'm gonna get back to phosgene.
Yeah, she just needs to,
Yes,
if you could,
yeah. So.
did you get it? No, okay, we'll look it up.
In the air conditioning gas that's in your car or that's in your house,
Hmm?
when that gas heats up, it turns into phosgene. So as a cooling gas, it's harmless, but once it's exposed to a different environment, it becomes very deadly. Well, in the monocrystallines, it does the same thing, and that's not mentioned in the environmental report. So in the environmental report, I really had to look at Dr. Olson. Dr. Olson, who has a master's and a PhD in environmental science. And in there, he should have been describing not so much what's on the industrial side of the certificate. He should have been looking at explaining to the people what the public side of this certificate could have, and there's nothing there from his part. But yet, we have our doctor, Ms. Huntley, who is a licensed doctor. She's in psychology, and she treats a lot of people professionally. He called her out as a non-professional, using his name as doctor, which is misrepresentation. He's not a doctor. I looked throughout Canada trying to find him. I looked through other states throughout the United States trying to find him. He mentioned he was in counties in the United States. I couldn't find him. I looked in his counties of Canada and I couldn't find him. He's not a doctor. He is a master with a PhD. And that was not clarified. So even when he came to our next era meeting at the high school auditorium, he stood up there and posed himself as a doctor. That is a misrepresentation. He's a charade of a PhD. He is not a doctor, but we can recognize his title as reaching a doctor achievement, but he's not medical. And he denounced our medical people as not professional. Well, then further down, people in the next era employment went down and said they agree with him, and totally wrong. That should be clarified. If that statement denouncing our doctor, that she is not a professional, his statement should be withdrawn. That is a total misrepresentation of not only her profession, but him posing as a doctor. He's not a doctor. That's like calling you the plumber. And you are the judge, you are overhearing this hearing, you know nothing about what's going in the kitchen, but to say the plumber over there doesn't know what they're doing, totally wrong. And that's where I get back to Representative Banky, how he said at the state, the way this whole project came in was a total sore thumb all the way through. So then we come down and they talk about the wetlands, and I've already discussed that. They got into property lines, and the property lines, most of them are 10 feet from a residence or whatever. If anything's going to leach, and this was a big argument with the Back 40 mine up in Stevenson, Michigan, they said our tailing pond isn't going to hurt you, but the volume of the tailing pond was 4 times bigger than the ecosystem it would have fell into. And they said this won't hurt you. Well, and the same thing here, we don't know all the composites that are in the materials that are being buried in the ground. And when these start breaking down, they develop their own toxins. In that same study, and I believe that was also done by Dr. Olson, PhD, he did not specify what is the toxin nature. Toxin can be a cell in the flower that gets corrupt. Toxin could be the soil that gets corrupt, where you have a contaminated soil. But he also doesn't say that if this toxin leaches into your property, there's no test there to prove it, that you could be walking through it barefoot, absorbing this through your skin, and you would now have a diagnosis that you don't know where it came from, and it falls under oxidized cells. The term oxidized cell, I've been bringing that to the Capitol for the last month. It's a new term, it's not discussed, but I think that word's gonna replace PFAS real soon. So oxidized cell you can inhale it, you can ingest it, and you can absorb it through your skin. None of that is mentioned in your environmental study. And the environmental study has nothing to do with health study. The environmental study is strictly industrial. It stays to the molecular chart, and it has nothing to do with what's going to happen to the people. So the people could get sick. The doctor says, I don't know what's wrong. We'll put you on a antibiotic, and you get sicker. So that part of the report, because it was already handed in and considered a professional survey done, is very questionable. So then we went into, I mentioned about the purchase plan agreements, that the purchase plan agreement can also go through MISO, and it also has to go into the point of interconnection. But the purchase plan agreement has not been spelled out. They're saying, we'll let you know when we get to that point. The certificate should not be in place or even be considered to be approved if there's no one there to buy, you're building something out there and you hope you're gonna find a market that pays for it. Because then that comes into, you have the rate of investment, what it costs to build a project. And it's all running under subsidized monies and the tax exemptions. But then when it starts to operate, when the new buyer comes in, a lot of this stuff changes. And it's gonna wind up being that, what is the rate of return? So in that rate of return, if all these people are waiting for their payment to their whichever way they invested into the project, the only way you can come back and make a payment consciously back, say, to the town of Morgan, you have to raise the rate payment on the meter behind the meter. So regardless how efficient somebody out there in Wisconsin wants to be, that administrative cost is on the other side of the meter, and they won't be able to cut that cost down. It's an inflation added to the state of Wisconsin. And that applies to all our renewable energies. Then we go down into the existing solar recourses. When it comes into accreditation, in all of these reports, they're taking a product that has not been contracted with a company. It has not been approved for procurement, but they're saying we'll get something that is comparable to. So in the accreditation, what's the accreditation going to be on? So if you have a hospital that is a level 1 hospital, a level 3 hospital cannot shoot for the accreditation of a level 1. There are stages you have to go to achieve that. That is not in the solar project. It's not in any of the equipment. And as I read through all the different rebuttals, I was floored that this was even accepted by your office. But then I got into the hours of operation. And the hours of operation in the springtime was, it ended on the hours of 15, 16, and 17, which, so if you use 24-hour time, that would be 3 o'clock, that would be 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. But then you turned right around and you're doing energy studies at 8, 9 in the morning, and this was for the spring. You were doing studies at 8, 9, 7 o'clock in the evening, which is 1,900 hours, and then you're doing the 20 hours for winters, which is 8 o'clock. During those times, all the electronic equipment is at its lowest level of performance because you don't have the heat, you don't have the environmental flexation, and you don't have the strain on the electronics going through the different amplifiers. Well, I got into amplifiers, and if you want to talk to that at the Hill, I'll show up. But then they're saying that the expected design is going to be for 30 years. In 30 years, this system will be built at least 3 times. In industrial equipment, major equipment gets replaced every 10 years. Regular maintenance is on a regular 5 to 10 year. So by this time, what an investor wants to do is, usually within the 3 to 5 year window, they wanna bring it up to where it's sellable and get rid of it. They don't wanna invest anymore because the rate of return is not guaranteed to be there. And looking at how the rate of return is gonna come, the only thing I could do was go back across the country and ask, how are these gonna be handled? Well, I was talking to Minot, Arkansas, and someone here had already mentioned in their statement that they don't know if these are gonna be a toxic site. Well, Minot, Arkansas wasn't quite a year old with their solar investment. And they had one for the community, one for the school, one for the church. The tornadoes and floods came through. And where I left off talking to the emergency government and the mayor down there was that nobody wants to touch them. They are a toxic site and it's an expense to the people now. And the Public Service Commission does not want to go there. So in the Public Service Commission across the other states, it's no different than Wisconsin. Once it turns legal, they step aside and the town is expected to fork the bill for legal stuff. But then I was speaking with Grand Meadows, Minnesota. So Grand Meadows, Minnesota, which is not that far from La Crosse, down there talking to those people, the farmer agreed to storage, he agreed to structures, and he agreed to improvements without legal advice. He didn't know what he signed, he just thought he was gonna get rich. Well, they took the blades off the grid and rebladed the whole grid, but because he had volunteered for storage, they brought all the blades back to Grand Meadows, Minnesota. The state commission for Minnesota said we don't know nothing about it. There, the county supervisor like me, he came back home and he eventually became the chair. And he called out the state commission for Minnesota and said, we want these out of there. So by Christmas of 25, they were supposed to be out of there. But under NextEra, because this development was contracted out 4 different times, they weren't sure if the last contract was even in the United States. The town was stuck with the legal bill, and the town was stuck with the disposable bill, and they wanted to get this stuff out there. And 1 blade per semi-truck is what it took. But if you go on your cell phones and look up Grand Meadows, Minnesota, turbine blades, you'll see all the pictures there from the satellite. There's that many there. And there I just started talking to people at random. Well then, in last month's Wisconsin Utility Investment, talking about our different energy groups, somebody brought that up earlier here in one of the statements. But Franklin, Iowa is in the last page, bottom right corner of the Wisconsin Utility. And I was talking to the gentleman there, and he said, yes, when the green energy came into our county, we had the richest county in the country. We didn't know what to do with the money. And that's what everyone thinks they're gonna get rich. Well, now they're retooling, they're resizing, they're reinvesting back into that green energy. But what's left behind in contamination and waste, he said, we don't know if we have enough money. This could be a county going broke, going just the opposite, where they went from rags to riches, now they're going from riches to bankruptcy. And this could happen very easily in the state of Wisconsin because this land, once it's converted to industrial, it is a uncommissioned landfill. There's no registration of what's in the land, there's no registration of what the materials are made of, there's no registration of how long they're gonna last before they start to decompose, and we have a high water table before it gets down to the aquifer. This decomposition of our materials can flow the sieve rate, which goes from the top to the bottom before it gets to the aquifer and contaminates the aquifer, or it can go with a flow rate from left to right. And all of that can reach back down into this gentleman here who talked about the ecosystem. It gets worse after that. And we could very easily, with our toxicities of the different types that we have, we could very easily fall into a, what they call an acid mining discharge. And that's where the sulfuric composites, which are in the product, if it gets big enough, because we have no idea what's going in, they're not sure how many panels there's going to be. They're not sure where they're going to put the panels. They're not sure how many inverters are actually going to be operational. And so this stuff was not clarified with the town. So the town, concerned about the town's health, concerned about the safety of the people, none of this is explained on the certificate of public. Everything is on the certificate of industrial. Then on the industrial side, when it gets to that point, my question at the Capitol, and if you had Representative Banky here, I've been living at the Capitol as a county supervisor. But my question is, what is happening to the ruling of the Public Service Commission? is their platform being governed by environmental social governance? And it's something they're teaching in the university now, but it is directly connected to BlackRock environmental monetary funding, and then it goes back to the United Nations, then it goes up to the Middle East, and whoever wants to put money into renewable energy, they want their money back. And you can only do that by raising the rate of the ratepayers throughout the state of Wisconsin. Everybody has to pay for it.
Hang on just a sec.
Yes.
How are you doing? Okay. Just gonna give her fingers. Just gonna give her fingers a little break.
Want me to talk slower? So you don't
Yeah.
get
It's like,
cramp?
it's like a speed test when I was in school in the 80s.
I agree. I won't question you.
All right. Okay.
So,
Let's
okay,
get going.
So then, under here, it said, the Fox Solar anticipates to negotiate the execution of the joint development agreement with a detailed decommissioning plan. That's not transparent. And here I have it in pink, which means I'm addressing the people, but I also have it under yellow, which means it's a legal issue. So in the transparency of that, the way I describe the joint development agreement, because the way they told us at one of the last community things they had here was, you don't have to do it. We don't have to do it as a town. I don't have to do it as a county supervisor. You're gonna approve it anyway. That was their attitude. And they're coming to Morgan, whether we like it or not, and they're gonna stay for a long time, and we're gonna do as they say. Well, in the surrendering between nations, and it's kind of unique what President Trump is doing right now, but when Japan surrendered to the United States, it was a declaration of surrender. That is a government document in a military language that is for the United States. The Joint Development Agreement is a document of surrender in civilian language. It is written on their behalf, dictated how we're going to do it, and we have no say-so in it. So at our courthouse, even though I am a supervisor for the county, I live in the town of Morgan, everything's going to be going right past me. I am barred from the courthouse. I'm not a part of any of the meetings. I'm not included on nothing for this joint development agreement, and anything that gets built with the BESS system, the solar system, or the ATC system. I am not allowed to be a part of it. I am banned from the courthouse. The only way my name got into your rebuttals was that through our emergency government, I questioned how are they going to evacuate the town and how long will the town be evacuated. And so they didn't have an answer. They didn't know the language. There is no language. So I brought in language from the federal government, which I did see under the Department of Military Emergency Government Management. And in there, when it gets into the solar, there is, let me see that over. Okay, you had that look in your eye. So what that does there is says there's nothing to fight these best fires. Well, in the language of all these best fires, I don't like going to the gossip column. So what I do is I go to the Capitol, I go to other towns, I go to other states, I find out what their issues are. Back around September, I called up San Bernardino, California. And out in San Bernardino, California, I said, what are you doing with your utility fires? In their utility fires, I said, your county burned down, your township burned down, your town burned down, you lost your house. They don't want to clean it up. Nobody wants to touch the home because of the synthetic material, so the house is a toxic fire site. I said, who's going to pay for this? They said, we have to. What I did here in Wisconsin was I got a hold of the Office of the Insurance Commissioner for the state of Wisconsin, asked them, if we have these fires, how are you going to cover our property? In our property, what NextEra said, we're going to have a bond. Well, when the county association came to the Oconto County Courthouse to represent the county on the development of NextEra for the joint development agreement, this really had nothing to do with the town. And my question to them was, if there is a bond, and I believe that some years back, NextEra said, well, we have $1 million bond for the construction.
We have
$1 million bond for the construction, but it's not a utility yet because they don't have a buyer for the utility, they don't have a buyer for the license to operate it, and they don't have a buyer who's going to purchase the electricity that they're going to generate as a commodity. My question was to the insurance commissioner, if you're seeing $1 million bond, the average house in Morgan is going between $400,000 and $500,000. Some properties are more, but Where I came back to the health department was because Dr. Olson did the environmental study, which is completely industrial, nothing on the town of Morgan, which is public. He said, there's nothing wrong, everything is safe. My house, if it gets contaminated by the smoke from the best batteries, my house is not covered. They said it is a man-made event, and who is ever running the solar has to pay for it. That becomes legal. So therefore, the Public Service Commission and next year you back away, and the Morgan is stuck with a legal action, the homeowner's stuck with a legal action, and just like Palestine, Ohio, we're stuck with a legal action. Just like San Bernardino, California, you're stuck with a legal action. Just like Minot, Arkansas, you're stuck with a legal action. So then I came back and I asked my homeowner's insurance, what'll happen to me? He says, you don't have insurance. Our insurance agent who represents the town came into a meeting and said, you don't have insurance. Next year, saying they have a bond for $1 million. All that bond is, it's a legal document for the holder that says we have this money to cover damages until the money's gone. One house will take up all that. What we were asking for is more like $450 million, the assessed value of each property, the assessed value of each barn, the assessed value of each animal, and what the animal produces. Have that in the cash bond. Let us have control of it for 30 years. If you have no problems, we give the money back to you as a flat rate. We keep the interest. And when I brought this up, they didn't even want to talk to me. And next year, it cut me off many, many times in the 3 conversations that I had, because I was looking for questions of accountability, not just to show me how strong they were. So they feel pretty much infallible. So then we went into the applications of evaluated federal, state, the level permits, and the necessary for the construction of the project. And I kind of hit on that right now, but then under yellow I have the final decision, which is you, the CPN, the certificate of public need and necessity, and it's to facilitate the cooperation with the local government and the town. There really is no facilitation with the town. The town is told exactly what we are going to do, and we really don't have an argument. So even when the NextEra had their public hearing at the high school auditorium, Dr. Olson got up there and kind of called out our question. But everybody who jumped up to correct him was evicted from the room. I was one of the people. I was not evicted, but I did jump up. I was in the second row, the same distance from you. Only thing I did different was to the doctor. I said, excuse me, may I be recognized? And like I did here, I swore myself in. And he says, you're recognized. Then I said, may I have the floor? And he gave me a confused look. He now gave me the floor. He didn't say what I could not talk about. But he quickly cut my questions off because I was looking for accountability. And that's where we, the town of Morgan, we have no voice to question their accountability to come into our town. So if we speculate, they'll say, you can't prove that. What I started doing was say, I'm not speculating what you're saying. I want you to say is the truth of what you're going to do in our town, not on the industrial side. What are you going to do on the public side? To this year, it's never been answered. And I don't know how many years I've been talking to the renewable energy people. So then we went into, I kind of mentioned the solar losses, where the panel's operating between 16 and 26%. The other 80% of that panel is supposed to be paying the county a tax dividend. And we're supposed to be someplace around that 300,000. Well, if you can't do it, then it has to be prorated, which means they're not going to give us the 300 at the end of the year. They'll probably give us only 8,000 at the end of the year and say, well, that's what you agreed to. We have agreed to nothing in the joint development agreement. We are told what we will agree to. So in the prorated part of the development, that's never been clarified. It's not clear where is the money going to be secured. But also on that flip side, when they sell, they want to do an amortization tax where they can get a reduction on value right away. But that also falls, because it's going to be the structures. If they have a garage, they have a storage facility, they have a building over whatever device, those structures can be taxable. Well, they might wanna amortize that, but if they sell the whole system, even with the data center, they're saying the data centers have to support themselves with energy, which the data center is gonna be required to, do a purchase plan of 80% of whatever the solar device puts out. Well, if that can't be matched, and they sell the solar development, and they sell the data center with the batteries as one piece of real estate, not a divided real estate, now it comes in under a different zoning, and there they're gonna say that, we don't wanna pay that price in the taxable property. We want to vault from our tax, which everything gets the 30-year depreciation. So if this table's brand new tonight, we just depreciated this table down to a penny, and they wanna get away with that. The town just lost their revenue. We get nothing, we're stuck with the toxic material in the ground, and that was not clarified in the commission. So all the stuff in a contract, it's nice to have the dialogue between NextEra and the Public Service Commission. It's nice to have that dialogue on the industrial side, but when they get talking to the public side, we are lay people. We're not in the same profession, we're not in the same language, we're not in the same interpretation. That language should be spelled out so that the people understand what's going on. And that's nowhere across the state of Wisconsin. So then, so then we have, on the final photo cells, the model selection and the panel purchase agreement cannot be made until detailed engineering is complete. That's still not complete tonight. Everything's hypothetical, everything's modeling, everything's what could be. And in here, could be, shall be, would be, modeling, that's throughout the whole application. Well, in the typical panel installation, Fox Solar utilizes and include the use of Tier 1. Well, there's no clue because they're saying they're gonna buy a piece of equipment that's close to. So they could be going from the Rolls Royce down to something that's lesser than a Volkswagen. And that's not clarified. So when people read this, they say something comparable. They don't know what comparable is, but comparable does not spell out, they have to get the product that was used for the study. So if they're saying they're using a Worry panel and whatever the top line of Worry panel was, or there's different model numbers, to use their application for their certificate for what they described under environmental health, this can turn into a very dramatic health environment for people. So the industrial side of the certificate totally avoided the health side of the certificate, which is never really mentioned. You use the word public, but the certificate has nothing to say about public. It's all industrial, and therefore it kind of leans towards the direction of a monopoly for profit. And that also is not clarified how it's being paid for. So then, it also says that in your section 2, it says the panel delivery dates. Well, those aren't clarified either, and even though it was in the report of what's going to become through Worry, the company has not been secured. What's going to be made has not been secured. How it's going to be transported has not been cleared. And how it's going to get into Wisconsin has not been cleared, because Worry, as far as I know, are still intercepted by customs. And I haven't followed this in about a month now, but I do know that they are being intercepted. And then it says, you're going to use between 190,000 and 230,000. Well, from 190 to 230, that's a big number. That's a big number of energy for inverters. That's a big number of photo cells. That's a big number of what goes in the ground. That number, if you have an engineering plan, the engineering plan says we are going to use this. And then if you're wanting to go bigger, they have to do the change order. Nothing in the engineering plan mentions change order. And if a change order is going to be made, how is it going to be installed? Where is it going to be installed? What's going to be used to install it? That's all part of the earth. Dr. Olson, PhD, he says nothing about that. And then in that part right there, what's going to be coming later is the emitted sound waves that come off of this, which Dr. Olson said it won't hurt nobody. Well, if you're in environmental health, studying the flowers, the gravel, the clay, the domain of the earth composite, yeah, that has nothing to do with mental health. But yet he denounced our Miss Huntley, who is a doctor. He denounced her as a doctor when he himself is just a PhD. He has no medical, I could find no medical background. I don't even know if he was a lifeguard. This guy has nothing to be a doctor. He is a PhD, and he charades himself totally wrong. And by doing that, subjecting the town to future health issues. And this was addressed by Ms. Huntley, who is a doctor. She is a medical doctor. She is in psychiatry. Dr. Huntley is a PhD. He works on flowers, he works on sand pits, he works on projects like this. He never once addressed the certificate side of the public and its health factors that can really have detrimental effects. So then, I also mentioned earlier that the monocrystalline in all the circuits, so people say, well, that little circuit won't hurt nothing. How many panels are we gonna have? How many wires are we gonna have? This monocrystalline, which is in the PFAS family, we are a unregistered landfill. We won't know what's going on because they're not allowed to do any of the testing, but in all of this stuff, if we ask for a material safety data sheet, so our one person who spoke out here said he was with the fire department. If we have the material safety data sheet, it gives all the speculations in there of what's in this monocrystalline. And some of them say it won't hurt you, but when you break down the molecular structure and put it in a different temperature, put it in a different environment.
Hang on, let me just interrupt. So you've mentioned that already.
Yes,
So let's
okay,
move on to
okay.
another topic.
Thank you. That's what I want you to do. That's what I want you to do. So then we were also talking about the friendly fencing. The wildlife won't come back. They won't come back. Myself, where I live, the bear come through, they're gonna be coming through at any time. I sit up on my little hill and I watch them walk by. When the fence goes up, our way of life goes away. We are out there for the family. And then I also mentioned about the roads, I mentioned about the inverters. That was not clarified. The mention of the surface area. If you don't know how many panels you're putting in, you don't know how many inverters you're putting in, there's no confirmed number there. That is all part of the engineering build sheet. It's a big book, and it spells everything out. That book doesn't exist. I looked for it. I went to other parts of the state asking for it, and they never had one. In the renewable energy, this is not there. They're just assuming that they can do as they wish. I talked about the excavation. What I found from the state of Minnesota was that when they dispose of a site, so if it cost $5 million to build a piece of the solar farm, it takes $15 million to get rid of it. It's twice, decommission is twice the amount of the actual building of it. So in the state of Minnesota, they said what they were allowed to do if the landowner agrees, they can bury their product from the highest point of the product, it has to be at least 4 feet under the grass. In Wisconsin, in our DNR, we have the same law, but we have to be 3 feet down. So, and where I was asking about this was when the wind turbines were decommissioned down in Fond du Lac County, they dug a ditch, took the blades off the turbine, dropped the tower in the ground and buried it. That is the reclaiming of the land. We don't know what's in those materials, but if it leaches down, it decomposes, it becomes toxic. It can come up through the roots, but it cannot be a food chain area again. It's done. It's an unregistered landfill. What I'm going to do here to cut time down, everything in double color, I'm going to address those. So then we have.
Sorry, let's go off the record. Ma'am, I'm sorry. We can't have you talking and interrupting the person who's making a comment because we have someone here who's trying to listen.
You're making him feel like he has to be
I don't think that's true. I don't think anyone here would agree with that. I think we're patiently listening to him give his comment.
You're falling asleep.
I-
I see your eyelids going down.
I don't believe that's true. If you continue to interrupt, I'm going to ask you to leave, okay? Okay, so please don't, because I don't want to have to do that. I really don't. Okay, let's get back on the record.
Okay, so here I described what is expected of the area after the decommission is completed. Then we go down to discuss the spill contaminating cleanup measures, including spills prevention and the control countermeasures. Well, this is a NextEra plan, but NextEra, as they told us, they have no plan. And if they do have somebody who can come in here and control the amount of, which is going to be probably an oil product, they're going to be someplace in the Midwest. We don't know how far away they're going to be. And where I found this of concern was years ago I was working on a 30,000 amp transformer. And to get inside, because it locked all the safeties locked us out, there was only one gentleman who they flew in from Texas who was licensed to go in there and de-energize that. NextEra is kind of operating the same way. We have to wait till their employee comes up here by whichever mode of transportation and walks into the area, because until then, everything is secured within a 5-mile radius. That is not really spelled out unless you go into the Department of Defense Emergency Management Plan, which was published in October of last year, which I did see it in your rebuttal section. And so that is current. But then the Fox Solar development and the implement of this of the spill control, what we don't have in our town, and it's not in the construction, so that part of the application should be withdrawn because it's incomplete. But it says right here what it should be in there. It says typical fuels. It talks about method and location. It talks about the location designated. It talks about prevention measures during refueling. None of that was spelled out in the 3 consultants that I looked at. None of that was spelled out on the Morgan certificate of public. Nothing spelled out on the Morgan side. There's information there on the industrial side, which you never mentioned the certificate of industrial need and necessity. That word's not there. That's my word, industrial. But the public side, which you mentioned, the CP, all your boxes don't match the public side. They match industrial. And that's a concern, and it's not clarified with the public. And that's part of the frustration in the communication. So when I take this stuff, this information here, and I try to break it down where they can have some sense of what I'm saying, it's still way over their heads. And this is not easy language, so the dialogue with NextEra, talking to everybody, whatever they do on the industrial side in their office, that is dialogue strictly in their job profession. It has nothing to do with the public in the town of Morgan, and it's meaningless to us. But they don't spell out how is the town protected, how are the people protected, how is their health protected, how is their home and their investments protected. None of that spelled out. It falls into the hand, in the end, it falls into the hands of the people. The substation design, which it says will be completed during the detailed engineering for the Project A footprint. And it says approximately 200 to 300 feet has been allocated at the stage and will generally include its below within the substation. Well, I was looking at where the substation is going to be, and they like to have them within 20 acres. And the reason they want the substation for the batteries is that they can take the size of the solar development as what its maximum potential could be out there, but they don't know yet. They don't know how many panels there's going to be. So they have to come up with a design agreed upon by MISO before they can do the point of interconnection. In that point of interconnection, there's a legal factor there because now the developer of the solar system can always connect something to their best battery, their point of interconnection. They can connect something to that battery storage area, which is pertaining only to them. Where if they didn't have the batteries, every time they wanted to connect to the transmission station, they would have to go through MISO, they'd have to go through FERC, they'd have to go through the Public Service Commission. And the way they can get around that is by owning their own substation, which is the batteries, having a one-time connection on this side, going to the transmission. Back here, these sides, they could make a spoke wheel, and all that out there could be future solar. So like our one person said here in their statement was that when the solar comes in, this is what is agreed upon, but once they get sold, the new buyer wants to expand, they want to move out. And that's very true, but what's not made clear to the people, because they say, oh, solar's good. So like one person said to me, well, I see that TV commercial where the young couple's walking by the farm. I go, that is not a solar farm, that is residential. So I use their deer camp as a modeling, because that's what NextEra does, everything's modeling. And I said, you own 40 acres, and I drew a square around the camp. I said, that's 40 acres. Now I said, they're gonna use a couple thousand acres for the solar. And I went out here and I drew a big drawing. I said, all this is solar, and you're not allowed to hunt on your land because the boulder could hit the solar panel. And you go, really? I said, that is a solar farm. It has nothing to do with the interpretation of what you thought it was. So that's how I have to talk to people to get them to understand it. But in the cost of bringing the batteries in, people think, well, batteries are gonna give me some type of reassurance. These batteries are only good for 4 hours. So batteries, regardless if you're going to do something big as a BESS, or you're doing something as small as a security system, these batteries are based on a number. They're based on a small letter A and an HR, which is the amp hour. So if those batteries are in thousands of watts, they're gonna be a 4 hour. They could lose power, and in 4 hours, those batteries are dead, and so is that part of the system. The solar panel, if this happens in the middle of the day, and the power goes out at 9 o'clock in the morning, those batteries are drained by 1 o'clock. They're not doing anything more. Then it takes a whole long period of time to regenerate them. What's not explained in that regeneration, if this event does happen, and it's not in the engineering plan, I looked at other states and I couldn't find nothing. And what it's not saying that if these batteries go through this type of cycling where they get totally drained and they come back up, and they only have a 4 hour span of producing some type of energy, these batteries burn out faster, and they're no different than your battery stuff at home. A lot of that stuff has a 5-year, most of it has a 5-year lifespan. If you get 9 years out of it, you have to do a replacement. And that's where I talked about in the beginning, what it costs to develop this renewable energy. It does not, nowhere does it address the capital cost to run it and the capital cost to maintain it. So they're gonna have to pull these batteries out, put new batteries in. That is not gonna be free. They have to come back to you and ask for a rate change on the meter, behind the meter, that expense can be covered. And it's an automatic inflationary cost going to the state of Wisconsin.
Hang on, let's take a little break here. How you doing? 5-minute break?
We can.
No, I don't want to take that long, but
No, that's okay.
No.
yeah.
So you don't get.
What do you got left for us here? How much do you think?
I'm in chapter 2. I'm actually at 2.54.
So we're-
Can I go to the bathroom while you're looking at that?
Yeah, take a break. I will be off the record. So
So I'm looking for clarification on those stuff. But
I see.
What's in double colors, this
Yeah.
involves legal, and so I'm
I
focusing
get
more
it.
on that.
okay. So what I'm going to say is, I think what we're going to need to do is have you put the rest of this in writing and file it with us.
It'd take me 6 months.
I'm sorry, but we can't. I mean, this is a lot.
Yes, it
and
is.
we're here to take.
Exactly what it's doing. Off the record.
Ma'am,
We're off the record.
I'm none.
right now, aren't
I can't have you interrupt me. I'm talking to this person here.
we? I want
it's-
to talk to you.
Yes, but this is taking. I mean, we've been here for this one comment,
Is there a time limit?
sir. Is there any way we could speed up or condense what you have to say?
What I would like to do, and I said, I have no problem going to the Hill. If you'd like to sit down with me in your office in Madison, I would gladly go over this.
Well, I don't make the decision in this case.
Mm.
I'm here to collect your comment.
Yes, and
If you can put it in writing, that would be very conducive for the person reading this and going over it. I mean, we can go through all these topics, but if you could just be a little more concise with your
Okay.
descriptions, so we can get through it. I think that's.
okay, and then, you know, if you,
If you have particular points to make, just make those points, okay?
Okay.
So that I'm just asking you to maybe just condense it a little bit.
okay,
So go through all of your points that you want to
what
speak.
I'll do is, everything that's in double color, which, so pink, the pink color pertains to the town, but yellow pertains to legal action,
Okay.
which is you.
Okay.
So I cannot talk about, say, the water supply, but I'll go up here and just everything that could be a concern of the town,
Mm-hmm.
not the industrial, but the public side of the town.
Okay.
And if it could involve a legal action, I'll discuss
Okay.
that. And that takes a third off every page.
And I don't want you not to address the topics. Just be more concise with your statements.
Okay,
Okay.
and if I fall off subject,
I'll let you know.
Let me know.
Okay. Excellent.
okay.
Let's get on the record.
Okay. What really concerned me here was, this is in your application, that we know the fence is gonna go up, we know how big the fence is going to be. But it says, a 7-foot high chain link fence with And this part, really, Morgan's the only place I read this. 3 strands of barbed wire fence, 4 inches apart. In our God's part of the country, we don't need that. This is not a prison. So then we went over to the conceptual design. It's not a conceptual design at this point. It is a fact design. It is a engineering plan. It is spelled out. Here's how it starts. Here is how it's going to be going together. And at the end product, we'll do a punch list. There's nothing conceptual there. It is confirmed. So this whole part, and it starts with 2.6, 0.4, 0.2. Everything in there should be redone, because even if you wanted me to go back and clarify this, it doesn't apply to the town of Morgan. It's something they're still thinking about. So then the other part, I go back into I'm by 2.7.1, and it says conceptual layout of the best batteries. I've always argued that. Just how big are these batteries going to be? Just how many are there going to be? How many inverters are there going to be? How many converters are there going to be? What is the actual chemical makeup? None of that is spelled out by Dr. Olson. He just says, I'm doing this and there's nothing wrong with it. He did a report, handed it in, it was accepted. The box is checked off on the industrial side of the certificate. Nothing there for the public side of Morgan. Then it goes down to 2.7.2, and in there it talks about the resiliency of the grid. It talks about providing nearly instantaneous power, which isn't going to happen. And it talks about the communication of safety. Everything in safety for the town of Morgan and its resident, everything is, we will lock the gate, back off 5 miles and wait. That's what the safety plan is right now. And NextEra has nothing to respond, and neither does the federal government. Then I went over to 2.7.3, and there was talking about the identifying the manufacturer of the model of battery systems to be used. That's still in a, they don't know until it gets here. That goes back to the supply chain, that goes back to the manufacturer, that goes what they agreed to purchase, how long will it be to make it. And one battery, I don't know which one NextEra is buying, it's not even made in this country. So that was there. Then we're going to move over to chapter 3.1.2, and we're going to be going on into the modeling section. And here it says construction of the Morgan substation expansion, and then there's a number 2 there, like it's squared, but it says the scope of these activities are not included. You have to have all those in. If you have a project plan that's been approved and the designs and all the specifications are there by all the analytical studies, it has to be there. Otherwise you have to withdraw it and do it correctly. And that's where, if you wanted me to write this out, a lot of this is incomplete.
Right.
So it's not there. So
And
then
I
it
think,
says,
and I think I get the point you're making there.
okay,
So,
then
yeah.
the project commissioning, which is part of you, and it's also going to include ATC substation expansion is completed. Well, they've been working on that, and they've been working on I believe it's a 169 wire to pick up this green energy. But then the project facilities are inspected and energized. What's not spelled out in this piece, and I believe it came through the emergency government, but they're going to block off a 5-mile radius when they energize this up, and however long it takes to energize it up, that area is blocked off. These people have no route in and out of their residence, but this stuff is right next to their residence, and it's not spelled out what could happen when this new stuff is being put under a heat load. And that's where, you know, if they test the stuff in the middle of January, it's not safe because it's going to fail in the middle of summer. So then I'm going to move over to chapter 3, and I'm point 3, and it talks about the overall vehicle length. Well, it's saying here that some of the equipment coming in, the vehicles, some of this equipment is going to be approximately 200 feet and may exceed the width of the conventional large equipment transport vehicles. They're not saying is this stuff going to be from shoulder to shoulder. They're not going to say if it's going to be on a double trailer where it has 70 tires. They're not saying how it's coming down a state county highway onto a county town high road into a town road. And they're not saying, there's no place in there saying, what is it doing to the bed underneath that road? The bed under that road is gonna get some stress, which then after that, a couple of spring weather conditions, and that road's gonna fall apart. They say they'll make repairs, but they don't spell out what kind of repairs they're gonna make and whose authority they're gonna make them under, so it's done according to specifications. Then I'm gonna move forward to, chapter 4, and it's gonna be point 1, point 7, point 1. And it was about the wetlands again. There again, they're talking about putting everything into the ground and burying it. They're talking about doing the delineation, they're talking about doing drainage, they're talking about doing holy ponds. Somebody should describe to the town people that we have the biggest ecosystem out there on the face of the earth. There's no other one like it in this country, and when it's gone, it's gone. And this project has the perfect storm to get rid of it. Once our microbiome family is missing, all the other junk comes with it, and you just lose that part of the earth. Then I'm going to move over to chapter 5, point 1, and it's called Describe the Geology of the Project Area. So it says Oconto lies in the eastern ridge
I'm
of the
sorry,
low.
it says,
Oh, it was 5.
oh, Oconto, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Oconto County, and it was
Sorry.
5.1.1. But it says that the eastern ridges of the lowland, the geographic region of Wisconsin, the project study area in the northern Lake Michigan coastal ecological landscape. That word right there should be emphasized, it should be studied. None of the analytic people picked up on it. The only thing they really did was, they said that through the different looms and the different clays and the different sands that we have, that this is no major concern. But if you live here, that is a major health environment. You change this biological environment to something else that could move in, it brings a micro family in that all the people start getting exposed to it. And one word that's coming to my head right now is blasphomatosis. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but that's where it can get into your lungs. That's part of the inhaling, because I said you could ingest, you can inhale, or you could absorb. So in the inhaling of this toxin now becomes a toxin. And I also mentioned earlier about oxidized cells. This is going to make an environment of oxidized cells. The people are going to ingest it and they're going to inhale it. I don't know so much about absorbing it, but at the Capitol, I've been bringing this word out there on oxidized cells. It's a new sickness coming, because the science, the language is just like AI. 4 years ago, as I was talking about circuit boards, okay,
You mentioned that
we'll
before,
get back on here.
Yeah.
Thank you. So then, what here, and it's throughout here, but it's going to be in 5.3, and it's going to be the general project area land cover, and it's throughout this whole report. You put in development urban by population, how things get financed and ruled, and how the government writes its laws. Urban is a different number than rural. We are rural. And a lot of this stuff does not apply to rural. You can't do it in rural. You can do it urban, or you can do it in town. You can do it in a city, but you cannot do it in rural. And I was surprised that I seen this throughout the entire report, but they used the word urban, and we are not urban, we are rural. So then I did mention, but here it's 5.3.1.3, the wetlands, and I believe that Agers and Reed classification were the people who did the study. But here it talks about the wetland delineation. It goes into all the appendages of photos and reports. But here again, they totally missed the ecosystem. They talk about shrubs, they talk about different microbes, they talk about seasonal and perennial. Nothing is here about once this ecosystem is dug out, because that's what they're going to do, it's going to be gone. Then they get into the vegetation, how they're going to plant with the herbicides. They don't say what type of chemical they're using. And that's kind of what ATC did. They came through and they sprayed the trees under the power line, but then the wind carried it into the private land and they lost their trees too. So then over the long term of, I had to laugh at this one, but they say how they're going to maintain the property. They're going to keep it clean just like the neighborhood is. But it says in 5.6.2.3 under vegetation monitoring and management, and you go down to the third paragraph, just before 0.6.2.4, it says, over the long term, years 6 to 30, mowing should occur at least once every 2 years. I cut my grass every 72 hours. That's the rate it grows. What kind of jungle are we gonna have in 2 years? I don't know where that came from, but it's in your report. So then we're gonna move over, and it says, it talks about the fencing, but it says, the final make and design of the parameter fence is not known. How can you accept a report that's not known? Everything, what I call the industrial side, which the word industrial is non-existent in your report, everything's public. The whole side of Morgan, the whole side of Needham in public, it's empty. Everything is industrial. It's for their monopoly of profit. So then it goes in to say that the final decision on the design of the wildlife-friendly parameter, there's no such thing. When you take the parameter, when you put up the parameter, nature's gonna go someplace else. And if this was closer to me, I know my bears wouldn't come back. So once the final design is commenced, when is that gonna be? And so what they constantly told us, well, we'll let you know on the day that we're doing something. That's way Next Era talked to us. So this has to be how our joint agreement on the development, that's how this is, well, at the end of the day, we'll tell you what, we have no idea. Once they ruin that part of our country, our town, it's done for. So then I'm gonna move.
Yep.
Are you doing okay?
All right.
Okay, so we're gonna need to have you wrap up,
Yes,
because we just can't, our court reporter just
Okay,
can't go
okay.
through it all.
Yes.
I mean, I can invite you to put the rest in writing,
But
but the court reporter can't.
I would need
follow along with you.
your guidance how to make this transparent, because there's so much that's not coming.
Well, I think if you wrote down what you think on each of those points, that's what we're hearing you say right now. So that would be perfectly fine
How
for
many
you to
months
do
would you
that.
give me to do it?
I won't give you months to do it. I can't give you months. If you were, I mean, think about if you're telling me this, just typing it up.
And I'm cutting it short.
As you're speaking it, you type it up. But let me do it. Let me give you, it's 7:32 right now. I'm gonna give
Yeah.
you till 7:40 to wrap it up.
Okay,
Okay?
that's a
All
deal.
right, there you go.
Okay,
I just need
yeah,
that.
so then,
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
So then I went over to chapter 5.9.8, but here it says, describe the measures that would be taken to mitigate and minimize the impact to the aesthetics of tourism. There's towns in the south, they're crying that they ever went with this renewable route. There's no way to get their town back. Nobody wants to touch it, but it also leads back to the part about cutting the grass. And, oh, no, I'm almost done. I don't have to talk about the standing archaeologists, I was looking at how they did their study, and I was really uncomfortable with the way they said they did everything by aerial. If you're gonna look at who was here before us, you have to walk the land, and that was not described as doing a clear job of it. So, 3 more lines. The internet and Wi-Fi, it says that, and this happened with the solar farm out in Shirley, and this happened with the solar development up in Door County. But it says that the project will impact the Wi-Fi or internet services for nearby residents. And what the utility did back then, they said, this is what we did, this is what we studied, too bad. And so the town of Shirley, the people just walked away from their homes. Up in Door County, the utility, I don't know if it came through your office, but they equipped trucks to drive up and down the road and pick up on these frequencies. These frequencies are 24 hours a day. They don't have to be loud, you don't have to hear them, but your body will constantly intercept them. And it's gonna go back to this, I use the word oxidized cells. And you can go in there into the International Library of Medicine. Dr. Olson did none of this because he talked about the earth and the ground that are going to be interfered with. But it says, the multiple paths of interference to television and receivers. When television signals are scattered, that's when the blade comes through, that's when another signal comes through and it breaks that interruption. So everything out here is going Wi-Fi through the tower, the new towers being built. It's not going to work. It's going to fail. And it's proven throughout Wisconsin, wherever this stuff was already installed, they had their problems with the constituents of the area, and it doesn't work. So, so then it says, coming back to your office, I file a complaint, we do mitigation, should the interference occur again, you might go out there and say, well, my little meter says everything okay, well, sorry, citizen, you're on your own. And that's what happened in Door County and down by Kewanee. So then, the state and local noise. The noise level of the inverter is not honestly described. This is a major health issue. So in science class, you had the sinus wave where when these sound waves come through, it's called white noise, and it can also be called static noise where it comes into the color spectrum. But it's a little wave going like this. They can travel to infinity. But if you're close enough within the miles of a lot of saturation, I can guarantee you cancer. And your body's gonna say, that cell is good, but over here the electrical signal's wrong, and my body's gonna make a new cell. You have cancer, or your kids are gonna have cancer, and that I can promise you. I am part of the state's science lab, I do have cancer. And when I brought this question up to them, they said, we're not gonna answer it, but you're not wrong either. So it's a new word coming out. And I want you to bring that back to your people, that these inverters are not that friendly, even though they're using the Worry family. When they get into another inverter that's supposed to be comparable, it could be a worse release of energy. And this isn't measured yet. It's still out there. So I'm bringing it to your ears. I've been spending time at the Capitol since January, and this is the word that I'm bringing to them. And I'm catching their ear, because if something happens to me, which I'm part of science, then I've done my part. But if I can save the kid who's not born, that's my objective, and I want that to go through your office. So then we move into, we talked about the joint development agreement, that we really don't have a whole lot to say about it. I'm barred from the courthouse. And then I covered the topics. All this stuff here, and I kind of made it clear about Dr. Olson. He's not a doctor. He's a
Made that clear.
PhD.
Yes.
So I'm not going to cover that. And thank you for your time.
All right. Well, I appreciate your comments. Thanks very much.
I got 2 minutes left.
All right. Do we have anyone else who wants to make a comment that hasn't yet? Okay. Did you fill out an appearance slip?
Thank you for listening.
Okay. We'll have you come up and we'll do it later. All right. So.
Okay.
Oh yeah. You're right. Thanks.
When was that, Dave?
There's good information.
That's
in
all
there.
all the secrets. Yeah.
That's all my secret.
So, all right, let's just take a minute here to regroup. So we're just going to have you, I'll swear you in, and I'll have you state and spell your name for the court reporter.
Okay.
So first of all, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. State and spell your name.
Okay, my first name is Joseph.
Go ahead.
First name is Joseph. Last name is Brusky, B-R-U-S-K-Y. And I promise I will not be as long as Dave. He's
Go
a
ahead.
great resource, and thank you, Dave. He has some really good information.
Yeah. Well, we're here to take comments, so go ahead.
Okay. A couple statements I'd like to provide here is, me and my family, longtime residents of Morgan. I'm currently on the town board. I'm an official for the town. I'm also operating as chair as the Land Use Plan Commission.
Okay, so let me just make it clear. So the town is an intervener, a party to the case. So when you come making a comment, you should be making it on your own individual behalf, okay, not on behalf of the town. So is that okay? You
Yep.
agree to that?
Yep.
Agree to that? Okay, so
Yep,
go ahead.
absolutely. I'd like to provide a couple facts. And a couple facts are, and not opinion, so this is for our residents. We did surveys, we had election, referendum questions, and it was unanimous that this town and myself is not in favor of the project. What I'd like to state here is we have, which is, I think is extremely important, is land use. And I think that is what this completely all entails. And what I'd like to do is, I'd like to read our 20-year vision statement for the town. The town.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt. So that document is in the record in the case, so the commission
Okay.
does have it in front of,
Okay.
and we'll be able to review that. So
Okay,
we
okay,
could
that's fine.
forego that.
Reason I was going to read that is because I think it's pertains exactly
Mhm.
to townspeople, what their vision is of this town, have it a rural community to stay rural, and I think that's extremely important. I think that this project for the solar project, this is based on money. I think unfortunately it's greed. Money can be the root of a lot of things. It's unfortunate that from a farming community that we've had a few individuals that veered from this vision statement and kind of put us in this position. From an electrical standpoint, I understand the construction. I've been in the electrical industry for 40 years. I know the components. I've been on these sites. I understand the amount of tools and manpower and equipment and what it takes to construct these. I've tried to relay that information to others. And it's hard to fathom to have other people see how big of scale that these projects are going to be. Now, it's been mentioned already tonight, which is a huge concern on our local roads. They're not constructed for this. Again, I've seen that equipment and material. That's going to be a huge problem. I think most importantly is, as an official, that we are to protect our residents. Our main concern is the emergency management. Is there a plan? I don't believe there's a plan. Luckily, we have a representative for the county who's kind of in our corner, Mr. John Spice. I can't say that for all county upper officials, unfortunately. I don't believe that they're all on board with, well, they're on board with the project, but they're not really in our corner to protect us as a town. I guess just in closing, I would like to thank our chairperson, Lori Batoon. The amount of information and material that has been presented is unfathomable. For that amount of material that they expect that you can obtain and gather information out of, it's a shame that it is presented that way, and to be able to gather what's really all in there. Lori has done a great job. I don't think that they expected her response. She's extremely strong-willed. She's done a great job, her and her team. And that's about my statement.
All right. Well, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you can grab an appearance slip from the
Sure.
table and just fill out the top part.
Okay.
So we have a record of you. All right. Anyone else hasn't had a chance to speak that wishes to do so? We see only the same people on Zoom that we've asked before. So I did say if you had a no answer, an NA on your screen name, I just ask if you do want to comment just to unmute and let me know. So that'd be, I guess, Brandon, I don't think I asked you yet. Francie's iPad and OCR and Samsung. No one wants to speak on Zoom? Okay. All right, so that's all we have for comments today. Thank you all for attending, and I'll take these comments to the commission. They will review them before they make their decision. Thanks very much, everyone. We're adjourned.